Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for another round of Mind Your Fucking Business with your host, Jeffrey Prince.
Thank you, Dougie Sticks, coming to you as always from the beautiful studios of Undefeated Media here in Bergen County, New Jersey. This is the Mind Your Fucking Business podcast brought to you by the Bamboozle Project. We thank them for their sponsorship as always. Check out thebamboozleproject.com conveniently across your screen if you're watching the video broadcast today. Use promo code MYPB. Save yourself a whopping 20% off, not just one item, but your total order. And we thank DraftKings as well for their sponsorship. This is episode 143, Ciento Cuarenta y Tres. For those for those tuning in on the Spanish dial, we appreciate you tuning in today. Hope you enjoy the show. You can send us your questions at any time at mypbshow@gmail.com. But the more popular way to get us all day, it seems like every day, is to DM us on the Instagram platform, and that is at Mind Your Fucking Business, all one word on Instagram. You can find us there and communicate with us whenever you would like. You can listen to the show a variety of different ways, or you can watch it on video actually via YouTube or Instagram, or you could stream the audio portion of the show if you don't like our faces, and you can do that on Spotify or iTunes.
Absolutely. Do we want to remind you guys that since we are live, you can put your comments in the Facebook and YouTube comment section. That will be able to bring up live here, but you can also comment on Instagram. We just, we can't bring them onto the screen.
Yes. So, all right, let's start here with the Rangers because a lot going on. We were on last Wednesday, and the Rangers over the time since we've been on last, they played Montreal on Thursday. And I want to take something, and and I see people are writing in the chat about it already. I have not been a Blake Wheeler fan all year. It has been totally known, and ironically on Thursday that day. Oh no, I'm sorry, it was Wednesday, the day before the game. There was another clip posted about me talking about Blake Wheeler and how there's really no value in him at all. And then, of course, what happens on Thursday night? He gets injured in the first period, and if you watch the game, you knew right away that it wasn't a good injury. Like the way he went down, the way his leg moved, it was one of those injuries. It wasn't like Joe Theismann's leg injury in the 80s when you couldn't even watch it. It would make you nauseous. It wasn't that bad, but it was bad enough to know that your leg's not supposed to move like that. You're not supposed to go down like that. And Blake Wheeler's not coming back in that game, and he might not be coming back for a while. And the Rangers put out the message the following day that was right, and he would be out for the remainder of the regular season. Now, my guess is that the remainder of the regular season probably means as well that it is the full season. Just a guess, but I'm not a doctor. I want to say something. We never root for players to get injured in any sport, right?
Yeah.
I don't like Blake Wheeler on the team.
Yeah.
I don't have any problem with him as a guy. If I saw him at a restaurant, I would talk. I like him, right? I just don't like.
Without saying.
Yeah, but I feel like it needs to be clarified because I knew
You didn't wish
no
this
time
upon
out.
him.
No, I gotta tell you what happened. I was watching the game with my family.
Yes.
And my wife, and they were like, "Oh my dad," and I said to them, I said, "I'm going to start to get hate about this. Like this is going to come back and be like, oh my, you must be so happy he's injured." And I went on Instagram, and instantly that's exactly what happened. And I just want to clarify, we don't wish for people to get hurt. I hope he's back, but if he comes back, I hope he's adding value to the team. So we wish him, as Nikolai is saying, and you can put the over-under on how quickly Jeff says his team is better without Wheeler, but we wish him the best and speedy recovery. Thank you, Nikolai, because that is basically what I am trying to get at. Yes. You said it for me before I even went into saying it.
So I tore my Achilles like a year or two ago. I wouldn't wish that upon my enemies. You know what I mean? That's a terror. It was it was painful, and like it took a year. Like I couldn't walk for like a year. So like unless you're Aaron Rodgers, you can walk in like 2 months.
Yeah. And again, I've not been the Blake Wheeler fan. I know that, but we never want to see that, and we wish him. We wish he comes back. The Stadium Series, real quick before we get to our guest. Over the weekend, I did not go. I'm not in the past. I've not been a huge fan of the outdoor games. I've been a few times. It's freezing. I don't have a tolerance for the cold anymore. I wonder why I live where I live sometimes. And it's hard to see. Yeah. If you went this weekend, I mean, you were in for an awesome game.
Yes.
I know people, and I don't want to be like a Debbie Downer. And I saw what's his name? Evan Roberts on The Fan actually saying this exact point. At the end of the day, it's 2 points. It's a regular season game. It counts in the standings as much as if they won the game at UBS or at MSG. However, it can mean more than 2 points if the team allows it to be a stepping stone to something bigger, right? If they go on and win the cup, kind of like Connor Mackey's fight up in Ottawa, you'll remember it. You'll remember the Stadium Series. But if they go out and then lay a dud in the first round of the playoffs, the Stadium Series will then really just be those 2 points. So like the NHL did a great job with it. I actually felt, I haven't really been locked into the outdoor games recently because I think they were in Calgary and all this other stuff. I haven't really been into it, but because it was in our backyard, the NHL did a great job with it. I mean, credit to them. But for the Rangers, hopefully it can be a stepping stone to something bigger.
Absolutely.
And it's 2 points until I'm proven otherwise. And I know it's an unpopular opinion, but it's just true. Lastly, Dallas last night. I thought for sure the Rangers were going to be flat. And I said to my wife last night, I don't bet on Ranger games, but if I was betting on them, I'd bet on Dallas because I just felt like it was going to be a letdown game. They played okay. Igor played outstanding. 41 saves. The save he made on Tyler Seguin in the third period was just incredible. And it gives you hope that, Igor still has it. Like these people that think, well, Jonathan Quick should be the starter and Igor's not who he was. And this unpopular take on Spit and Chicklets that the Rangers should trade Shesterkin, which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. He still obviously has what he has that has gotten him to winning the Vezina in his short, young career. Last night, as well as that Calgary game I was at last week when they won 2-0, is giving you a sign that he still has it. I wouldn't put too much stock in Igor's performance in the Stadium Series because every other game the rest of the season is not going to be outdoors, right? The elements play into that, the sun. There's other things that go into it. It's not the best way to decipher how a guy is playing. But I think you like what you saw last night.
And the win was so much a factor. They were actually going to maybe switch sides in the middle of the third intermission.
Yes, and they have done that. I believe, if my memory serves me right, when the Rangers played in Citizens Bank Park versus the Flyers, the famous Daniel Briere penalty shot stopped at the end. I believe they switched sides at 10-minute mark in the third period. But all right, let's flip gears real quickly, and we are going to go to our guest. We're going to get Dan Rosen, who everyone knows is probably our favorite guest here on the show. He is senior reporter for NHL.com. How are you, Dan?
Good, guys. What's going on?
I'm
disappointed in your take on the outdoor game, to be honest with you.
Now, did you think, all right, well, that's fine. Let's start there. Prove me wrong. If it's a stepping stone,
I've covered 30 of them.
Okay. So if it's not a stepping stone to a deep
Stop
run.
right there. Stop right there.
Okay.
Stop right
Go
there.
ahead.
It has nothing to do about that. This is an event. This is an experience. This is 2 points, and that's the end of the day. That's what it means, and that's what you hear the players say. But if you're playing it, if you're coaching it, if you attend it, if you cover it, if you go to it, if you tailgate at it, you're getting an experience that you otherwise cannot get any other time in the hockey season. And it's very rare. There's been 5 outdoor games in this market in 10 years. It's very, very rare. And that's the most, by the way, in one single market in 10 years, okay? Because the 2 at Yankee Stadium 10 years ago, the Citi Field game, and the 2 at MetLife. It is an absolute experience. You have to remove yourself from the grind of the day-to-day and the standings and, the line combos and Shesterkin and his play. Remove all of that. This is an experience. It's an event. It's a big event. And yes, it's worth 2 points. And those 2 points can be meaningful. And the team that wins it, yeah, maybe it does something for them. But maybe it's also just 2 points and a great experience. And that's really what it's supposed to be. Now, when the Stadium Series games comes around in February, those 2 points seem more valuable than they do at the Winter Classic or the Heritage Classic, because the Winter Classic's played around New Year's Day. And the Heritage Classic typically is in late February or early, late October or early November. So these 2 points between the Devils and Flyers and the Rangers and Islanders that were up for grabs seem to mean a little bit more. They don't, but they seem to mean more because the runway is shorter to the playoffs. That only makes the game better. It only makes it more exciting. So it kind of bothers me when people look at the nitty-gritty of what these are. This is not a nitty-gritty game. This is a big picture, big event experience, sports experience. My son and his 2 friends went to the game, the Rangers game on Sunday, and all of them, the 3 of them, came away saying it was the best sporting event they've ever been to. Win. Doesn't matter what the result is.
So you've obviously covered more of them than anyone will ever talk to. Did you feel, obviously it was in our backyard. We live in this area. Did you feel it was better? I forget the result, just the whole production New York area. Do you feel like it was better than some of the other ones you've covered?
I was on par with some of the other ones I've covered. What was great about it was the fact that you got 150,000 plus people over 24 hours to see 2 hockey games in MetLife Stadium, 2 regular season hockey games, right? And they had a huge event feel to them. So, yeah, it was as good as any of them that I've covered. The best remains. I covered the first Winter Classic in 2008, the Sidney Crosby shootout. And now that, because of the snow globe effect and Crosby winning it in the shootout, the puck on his stick, the game on his stick, all that Doc Emmerich's call, like that remains and probably will never be topped as the best NHL event I've ever covered and probably will ever cover. But that is partly because of the result, how it ended, and what it led to. Not necessarily what happened in the second period or that Colby Armstrong scored a goal, the quickest goal in outdoor game history. I didn't even remember that the other night when Nico Hischier scored. I had to look that up. It was just the event feel of what it had. And these 2 games at MetLife Stadium were absolutely on par with every one that I have covered and better than some that I have covered without question.
All right. Good to know. And hopefully I'm sure it won't be anytime soon, but hopefully it'll come back around again and they can replicate the success when they do. All right. I've had the opinion for weeks, and it seems like a lot of people that have listened have been writing in and agreeing with it. But now I want your opinion because things are different. They've won 8 in a row. That if I didn't want Chris Drury to go that crazy here at the deadline, I would look at it and say a couple of weeks ago, you have your starting goaltenders not playing like a starting goaltender, although obviously the last week has been different. You have concerns with your top line 5-on-5. This isn't the year to just go all in and get rentals back like Kane and Tarasenko. How hard do you think Chris Drury is going to go here at the deadline? And I know he keeps things tight to the vest. That's Chris Drury.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I didn't expect him to go as hard as he did at the deadline last year. I expected like a Tarasenko move. I didn't think the Kane move was necessary, but and once they got Tarasenko, I was not expecting the Kane move. So it's hard to know, but I wrote about this today in my weekly mailbag. I've written about it before and talked about it. I do think big, broad, like the if you're going to pie in the sky, you're going to go for it really all the way. You need a 3rd line center and you need a 1st line right wing. That's what you need, right? Does it mean that Johnny Brodzinski, who I believe is signing a new contract today, by the way, with the Rangers, does it mean that Johnny Brodzinski can't be in your lineup? No, it doesn't. If you in the playoffs, and Brodzinski's been a center on a pretty good 3rd line right now between Cooley and Kakko. Kakko's playing very well, but in the playoffs, the top 2 lines over a 7-game series can cancel each other out. It happens more often than you think, right? And that 3rd line becomes so essential. It becomes so big for what you're doing. And you're talking about a rookie and an AHL call-up and a guy who's really struggled in his first 4 or 5 seasons as your 3rd line. They're playing well now, but I would feel better if Johnny Brodzinski was, say, my 4th line center or my 4th line right wing and have that versatility and bring in a bigger, more physical, maybe, veteran presence in the middle of Cooley and Kakko. Guy wins faceoffs, generates, puck possession, things along those lines. I would feel better about that. Now, if you can also add a 1st line right wing to play with Chris Kreider and Mika Zibanejad, even better. You can look at the Anaheim Ducks, and I've written about this, and say, well, Adam Henrique and Frank Petrano, bang, right? Let's get it done, because both will be available. If they didn't do that, the number 1 priority to me is still 3rd line center. I think you can live with Jimmy Vesey as your 1st line right wing. I do. I think you can put him there, or the way Kakko's playing, if Peter Laviolette said it last night, I need to get him out there more. Maybe this is another opportunity for Kakko to get a chance to play with Zibanejad and Kreider. I don't know. I like him where he is right now, and I wouldn't mess with it, to be honest with you. But I can live with Jimmy Vesey there, but you got to upgrade that 3rd line. And if you upgrade that 3rd line center, now you're upgrading your 4th line too, because I'm pretty sure they don't want to go into the playoffs with Adam Edstrom on the left wing and Matt Rempe on the right wing. As big and towering as they are, I'm pretty sure they don't want to go into the playoffs with 2 AHL call-ups on their 4th line and an AHL call-up on their 3rd line.
Okay. So it's been rumored that the Rangers are willing to part with Kaapo Kakko. Do you think Drury is fine with that, to say, look, the 4 or 5 years sample size I've seen, 2nd overall pick behind Hughes, and we got lucky, let the Devils take Hughes, we want Kakko, all that stuff, which obviously was wrong. Do you think now he's okay, he's accepted, he's at peace with getting rid of Kakko if he has to?
Well, I think you have to be if that's the case. Now, Capo Caco, the way he's played the last 5-6 games, is kind of convincing you otherwise, right? I mean, he looks good. That shot he scores on against Dallas last night. That's not a shot that Caco even takes if he's not feeling good about his game. And he takes that shot, and it's a great shot. And he goes short side on it, blocker side. I mean, it was a great shot because Caco's feeling good about himself right now. So maybe he's convincing you otherwise. But if you look at the big picture of what Caco really is, Caco has been a guy who came in as the number 2 pick, but he's not the number 2 pick anymore. He's a middle 6 forward who's underproduced based on his potential. And does that mean that he's going to be better elsewhere? Possibly. But does it mean he might have hit his ceiling in New York? I don't know. Like, does he need a change of scenery? All that stuff. All that has to weigh into it. But if he plays another 5-6 games before the deadline, the way he's playing right now, I think you leave well enough alone. I do. I think you can handle that because you know exactly what you have in him, and you have to temper the expectation, which is another reason why I would leave him where he is, to be honest with you, and not put him up on the first line with Mika Zibanejad and Chris Kreider, because that raises his expectations. It puts more pressure on the guy, and I think he's a little bit of a guy. When pressure starts to mount and he doesn't score, it goes to his head, and that's not a good thing. Right now, he's in a third line role, 13 minutes a night. He's producing the pucks on his stick a lot. I would leave him alone, but we'll see where that goes. But I think you have to understand that you're not trading the number 2 pick in the draft anymore. You're trading a guy who's played about 250 NHL games and has about I don't know his numbers. I had him the other day, but 100 some odd points.
Right. All right. So the concern going into, if we go back a week, is that a week ago, I mean, obviously 101 hockey, goaltending wins Stanley Cups. Look at Aiden Hill. Look, I mean, every year, right? The goalie plays well, whoever wins the cup. Igor has not had an Igor-like year. The last week has been good. Are you confident that he can, when April comes around and this team is in the playoffs, he can dial it up to the level he's been the last week? Or is there a long-term concern with what we've seen this season?
No, I'm confident he can dial it up to what we've seen this past week. He's been better, the outdoor game notwithstanding, and I agree with your point. I mean, with goalies, it's a tough game for goalies. There's no question about it. It's just a different game for goalies. And you saw Igor struggle in the first period of that game. And then once he got used to the elements and the sight lines and the distance and all that stuff, he was way better, obviously. I think what we've seen, the Calgary game, the Dallas game, those are the games that I'm expecting more of from Igor. And I think the game against Dallas was key for the Rangers because 42 shots on goal, I believe it was. There was some wide open looks, like Jamie Benn had a point blank look. Obviously, we know the save that he made on Sagan, but there were others too that he made really good saves, point blank on. So the defense itself wasn't great. Dallas is very good. They're slippery. I think they're slick is what Peter Laviolette called them, and he's right about that. But the Rangers needed to see that Igor can have a game like that, and Igor needed to see that he can have a game like that they can win that game too, along with scoring 4 or 5 goals. Like, they could win that game. And that's a 2-1 game, 3-1 end, but 2-1 game. And I think that's really big for Igor and his confidence. The game against Calgary was big for him. This one's even bigger, I think. So I would expect him to build on it.
Okay. Why don't we pull up the bottom comment from Michael, just as an agreement with Dan, which is, I have full faith in Igor. I think his confidence has lacked this year. Clearly, watching him play last night, I think he can use that game going forward. Why don't we take a trade question, the one above from Michael? Are Eberle and Wenberg, because this has been rumored yesterday, a realistic trade the Rangers can make, and what would they give up if so?
Yeah, that's a really interesting one. I hadn't even thought about that one because Seattle is in that bubble, if you will, in the Western Conference. I think it's realistic. I think it could be done. I don't necessarily think you have to give up your first round pick to make that trade. You might have to give up your second round pick and maybe a decent prospect in order to make that trade, or 2 draft picks and to make that trade. You're getting 2 players that you're going to slide right into your lineup. I mean, Jordan Eberle can go right into that first line right wing role, and Alex Wenberg can go right into that third line center role. I mean, the fits are there, right? I mean, they're right there. And I like both of those players. I think Eberle's lost a step. I do, having watched him in Seattle this season. I think he's lost a step, but he knows how to score. He's a veteran guy. Wenberg, kind of a hit or miss player, but in a third line role, wins faceoffs, kills penalties, plays in the defensive end well. I think it's okay. I think it's fine. I think it's a trade he can make. I think from the other side, Seattle is, and I wrote about this in my mailbag today also. If I'm Seattle, I wouldn't sell just yet. the opportunity exists still for them to make the playoffs, and I think they are trying to build something in Seattle, and you don't do that by selling when you have an opportunity to make the playoffs. They're in a different position than, say, the Calgary Flames are, right? They're trying to build a culture in Seattle, a winning culture. It was big when they made the playoffs last season, huge when they won the first round. I think it would be significant again for them to make the playoffs again this season. And, it would keep the fan base alive and active, and that's what they want. So unless they fall out of it in the next 5 or 6 games, and they've got 5 straight at home and some tough opponents, unless they fall out of it, I don't know that I would sell if I were them. Because really, I mean, in all honesty, you're not getting anybody that's going to really impact your future in the next year or two if you sell Eberle and Wenberg right now.
Got it.
Are you keeping those players or those players rentals?
If they came back, I believe they're signed, right? They probably have term.
No, they're both unrestricted. They're both unrestricted.
Yeah, so there's a risk there.
Eberle and Wenberg are unrestricted. But that's the market that the Rangers are in. They're not in the market right now of taking on term. The way they take on term is if you trade your first round pick. And I had floated this out there, and I'm not the only one, that this was about a week or two ago. I said, Kakko in the first round pick for Adam Henrique and Frank Vatrano. Solves your problems this year, gives you stability on the first line right wing next year because Vatrano is signed. You give up your first round pick, which ideally is a 28 through 32 pick if you're the Rangers, right? And that's what you're going for here, right? And Kakko, who fits into the age bracket of the Anaheim Ducks and maybe just isn't going to make it all the way that the Rangers want him to in New York. My opinion on that's changed a little bit because of the way I've seen Kakko play the last 5 games.
Yeah, he's certainly been playing well. And people are all writing in on the Instagram chat that Brzezinski did sign a 2-year deal. So you were right about that.
2-year deal.
Yeah. Yep. That's what people are writing. It must have just been announced. The top line, not 5-on-5. Mika and Kreider at 5-on-5 and was ever on the right wing. Is that it? I mean, I would think it's a concern because if I was coaching against the Rangers at even strength, I'm obviously trying to shut down the Panarin and Trocheck and Lafreniere line.
Yeah.
Is it a concern? Do they have a legitimate concern that 5-on-5 play for their top line has just not been there?
I think you could have a legitimate concern that 5-on-5 offense has not been there. 5-on-5 scoring necessarily hasn't been there, but the line does. Those two guys do so many other things that kind of get go unnoticed if they're or get thrown in the background if they're not producing 5-on-5. So they're like, I don't know their analytics, but I wouldn't be necessarily all that concerned with those two. The one concern I would have, and we've seen it time and time again, is when they're on the rush, they're always looking for each other, and it's always a pass across the middle. And if I'm a defenseman, I know it's coming, right? So I'm playing the pass all the time. I think we saw it 3 times last night in Dallas, where Zibanejad's coming down the right side, Kreider's coming down the middle, and they try to make the pass, or the other way around, they try to make the pass, and the pass gets knocked away every single time. Shoot the puck, shoot for a rebound, shoot off the pad, those types of things. That's an adjustment I think that they need to make, but I would not be all that concerned 5-on-5 with those two players.
Okay. If we're going to talk about Kakko, I feel like we have to talk about Lafreniere. Kind of goes hand in hand. The year he's had, I feel like he's certainly taken a leap. I mean, I think it's his best year. What do you think is his long-term, up-to-date potential? Obviously not the generational talent. We're not seeing that, but we're seeing better than we've seen. What do you think about the year he's had and the long-term projection?
He kind of reminds me of Pavel Buchnevich with the Rangers in that, like, for the first 3-4 seasons, man, you saw the skill. He got better. He started to score a little bit more, but he missed the net, or he'd have a grade A chance and just can't score on it. The finish is just not quite there, right? Then they trade Buchnevich, and the finish gets there, and he becomes the finished package, if you will, in St. Louis. I think that Alexis Lafreniere has had a terrific season. I'm continuously impressed by how well he plays with the puck on his stick, that he protects the puck so well, and the skill shows. The next step for Lafreniere is the finish, is that touch around the net. It's not an easy thing to get, obviously, and you can work on it all off season, but it's just kind of got to come with a little confidence too in terms of scoring. But I think he's been good. I really do. I think he's been good all season long. He's taken a big step from last year to this year. There is a fire that I see him playing with that I did not see him playing with last year. There's a complete game to him now that I didn't see last year that I see this year. He's made good on his opportunity. It was finally moved to the right side, get a chance to play with Panarin and Trocheck. First Panarin and Hedl, now Panarin, obviously then Panarin and Trocheck, and it's just clicked. I think those two guys push him, and in return, he is now starting to push them at times too. It's been a big season for him.
Philip Hedl, you mentioned him. I would be shocked at this point if we saw him ever again. I mean, you have careers, you have a life after hockey.
Yeah.
Do you think the Rangers realistically think he's in the lineup next season, or is this a Michael Sauer kind of thing?
I don't know. I think realistically, you have to see how he's doing, how he's recovering, and long-term effects. What are they? What the doctors are saying? All of that stuff. I would think that at this point, the Rangers, with a long healing process ahead of them, are probably thinking that Filipino can be with them next season. We've seen guys overcome concussion issues. It's happened. We've seen it happen. Sidney Crosby's the prime example of it, right? But I don't know. I mean, I don't know how he's feeling. I don't even know where he is. These guys get hidden. I think it's got to be a day by day, week by week type of thing. And it's a question for Chris Drury whenever we do get to talk to him next on the record. Where's Filipino, the thought process with Filipino. But right now we don't know that thought process.
Okay. One Devils question, and then we'll let you go. If obviously they're trying to get a goaltender, would help them immensely. If they're able to get someone, let's say Markstrom in Calgary, and I know the deal fell through because I believe it was money I read. Would they be a legitimate, like all of a sudden, a hot wild card team to get in, have a good goalie? Obviously, that lineup, if it's clicking, I would think if I'm Tom Fitzgerald, I'm doing everything in the next 3 weeks to get a goalie.
Yeah, I would too, without question. But they have to play better in front of the goalie too. And it doesn't always happen that a goalie comes in. In fact, it's rare that a goalie will come into a team in a playoff chase and elevate that team. Dwayne Rollison did it in 2006 with the Edmonton Oilers. Ryan Miller couldn't do it when he went to the Blues that year. I think it was 2014. Marc-Andre Fleury didn't do it when he went to the Minnesota Wild. I mean, the goaltending was already pretty good, Philip Gustafson, right? It actually created a kind of a goaltending dilemma in Minnesota. That wouldn't happen in New Jersey. It could be done. Yes, they need a goalie. Yes, they should be doing everything they possibly can do to trade for a goalie with term on his contract, like Markstrom. UC Saros would be out of this world amazing if they were able to get him. I think Nashville would be nuts to move him. So yeah, they need to do it. Does it make them does it make them better? I think it should. Does it guarantee them anything this season? No, but what it does is it solidifies something for them long term, and that's a very important position to solidify long term.
Okay, last question. Someone wrote in, and it's a tricky one. So if you don't know the answer, he said you could let us know. He's interested in getting Tarasenko back, and he wants to know what exactly goes on the team's reserve list. Is it the player or the contract? Because this would answer if Tarasenko at salary retained is an option for the Rangers.
The reserve list. I'm not sure I even understand that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Chris, if you're still watching and you want to put it in the chat.
I mean, they can get Tarasenko back on a trade, and nobody has to go on a reserve list. It's not that. I guess I just don't understand the question. I mean,
right? I guess
available to them in a trade. Yes.
Yeah, I think he's trying to figure out if salary could be retained by Ottawa in a deal.
Well, I cannot be honest with you. I don't have it in front of me. I can't remember if the Blues retained salary on Tarasenko last year when the Rangers acquired him. If that's the case, I don't know if the Rangers can get him back with salary retention involved in the trade. But that's a CBA thing, and I'm not.
Yeah, that's what he's asking.
Yeah, I wish I had a better answer. I could look one up if he wants to get in touch with me. I can look one up, D Rosen NHL on Twitter, and try to find the answer. But I don't, off the top of my head, know the answer.
So the person who asked the question is a Twitter user. I will pass that on to him.
Yeah,
and
pass
maybe
it on.
he can,
Yeah,
he
I'll
can
see if
give
I
it
can
an
find
answer.
out an answer.
Well, we will let you go. I know you're heading to New York Ranger practice. Thanks as always, Dan. You're the best, and come back again.
All right. Appreciate it, Jeff. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks,
That
Dan.
is Dan Rosen, senior reporter, NHL.com.
Awesome.
Always the best.
The best.
That is so much. What I love about Dan is he can come on for, what was it, maybe 15, 20 minutes. And it's like you have 2 hours worth of content.
Yeah.
Like your head is like,
Yeah.
gives you so much stuff. And he's
Info on
Ra-
steroids.
rapid fire. I like that. So, yeah, I mean, with the Rangers, look, the trade deadline is going to be very interesting in 2 weeks because do you believe a lot in what you saw here in the past 8 games?
Mhm.
I mean, I'm not trying to take away anything from them. They've played well.
Mhm.
You know, if you really believe in what you saw in the 8 games, you're then going to say to yourself, all right, I believe this team's got a great shot. They could be the 1 seed in the Metro for sure. So let me go out now and, you know, go at it that way and put a lot in. I don't know. I mean, Dan even, said, look, Chris Drury always, and he always does this, holds things tight to the vest, which is why last year, if you remember, we were on the day that there's a clip of it on, there's actually a clip of it on Instagram when he was going to get traded. Kane was coming to the Rangers that Tuesday. And we said 5:00 today or later this afternoon, Patrick Kane's going to be a Ranger. Like it wasn't a secret. It was the world's worst kept secret, but it's the anti-Drury approach. So we shall see. So the Rangers tomorrow, an interesting schedule coming up. Tomorrow they'll be in New Jersey to play the Devils. The Devils are not playing well, but you know that whenever the Rangers play the Devils, you throw records. It doesn't matter. And the Devils last night defensively were a complete mess down in Washington, lost 6-2. So the Rangers take their 8-game winning streak into Newark tomorrow night. They go to Philly on Saturday afternoon, and they go back-to-back Columbus on Sunday. Now, I was thinking of, if you remember,
road trip?
I was
both Jersey and Philly.
Why don't we pull up Nikolai's comment real quick, which is the team better now this time last year versus
Ooh,
now?
that's a good question.
That's a very good question. The team is better now.
Okay.
Which if this is where Nikolai is going,
your spirits are more uplifted here.
Well, you've had a better regular season to date versus last year, right? I mean, they were very Jekyll and Hyde last year. Like you remember the stretch of hockey, obviously Trouba throwing the helmet in the Blackhawk game to kind of wake them up. I think they're better now. I don't know that again. I'm not of the
Are you
nature.
more confident in this playoff team than last year's playoff team?
Well, last year I thought, if you remember, they would match up well versus the Devils. I didn't want Carolina, and then they lost in 7. Yeah. So I don't know that you, in fairness, I should be disqualified from answering that question.
Well, last year's talks were like, this is a good opportunity to see something, but this is the beginning of our window, not the end of our window. You weren't getting too excited about, like, you knew they were going to win, but you weren't expecting a Stanley Cup victory. Do you feel like this year we're going for the cup? We have a good run at the cup.
I think hockey, I mean, this is what Dan Rosen and I just said this, right? It's always goaltending, right? If Igor Shesterkin is playing in April or May, like he played yesterday, like he played last Monday versus Calgary, they've got a chance to go far, and they have the roster in front of them. However, I mean, I know I'm kind of not answering the question, but it's the unknown of a goalie, right? Yeah. He hasn't been consistent all year. So it depends on what you get. But to answer your question, Nikolai, I think the team is better now than it was a year ago. But road trip. Yeah. So, yes, the Rangers are on Saturday in Philly. Now, as we all know, because there's clips of this on Instagram, I went with my wife and kids. They were there the Friday after Thanksgiving, which was a 1:00 game. Now, when we left the arena that day, my kids said to me, I want to go again. Now, I didn't know off the top of my head when the Rangers were in Philly again or what day it was. So that day I looked and I said, whoa, it's Saturday, February 24th. It's 3:00. It's a doable thing, right? It's a weekend. It's not a school night. And we could do the same thing we did in November.
People shouldn't give you a hard time in the middle of the day.
So I'm debating now. I would have
because this one's a night game.
No, it's 3:00, which is good because you get up at, you leave at 11, you're back by 9:00.
The drunk morons probably are still sleeping.
Well, no. They were out at the 1:00 game. They'll be out in force. My problem is this. My daughter has something now she has to go to on Saturday. So it would be me and my son, which is fine. My son and I go to games all the time. The secondary market, I didn't buy tickets yet because you also want to see like the weather, right? You
Yeah.
wouldn't want to buy tickets for an event in February and then have a blizzard. I'm not
Yeah.
driving 2 hours to Philly, right? So
Sure.
I didn't buy tickets. And the secondary market, because the Flyers have been playing really well, John Tortorella's doing a great job there, and the Rangers are doing well. The secondary market for tickets has like exploded to the point where I'm like, well, wait a second. I could spend the money again, but it's a lot to drive for 2 hours
Yep.
and then drive back. So it's 50-50. I'm probably going to go because
Mhm.
my son and I don't have anything else on Saturday. So I would, if I was to guess, we will probably go,
All right.
but it will be I shouldn't say game time decision. It'll be like a night before Friday night, Saturday morning decision.
So I don't want to put you on the spot.
Mhm.
But if you do go, can we do a contest like where's Waldo, where's Jeff? Maybe you
In-
find
in
maybe
the-
if
in the Wells Fargo
maybe-
Center?
Yeah, maybe if they find you in the stands, they take like an Instagram story and tag MYPB. We're gonna give
We
like a
could.
couple Dunkin' Donuts, our sponsor, Dunkin'
Oh,
Donuts gift cards.
We could. However, I'll give you a hint. I did
no,
this
no,
last
don't
time.
give
No. I'm gonna give it's a hint for road games.
Okay.
You always, if you go into a road arena,
Yeah.
and I may go tomorrow night, by the way, at the Devils. That's also possible. That's
Okay.
still on the table. If you go, you always sit on the side of the arena your team, the visiting team, shoots twice,
Yeah.
because that's going to have, it should have, and it did in Philly when I did this in November for sure, has the higher concentration of people that will have your back
It's like, yeah.
because your team is going.
Yeah.
So if
It's
I'm
like the home
going,
team,
yes.
like the way teams.
if I'm going to
See you
go
there.
on
Okay.
Saturday, or even if I go tomorrow night in Newark,
Mhm.
you'll find me on the side of the arena where they shoot twice.
And you can see that before the
Yeah,
game
yeah, yeah.
on the app.
Oh,
It
yeah.
tells
On
you which-
StubHub, like if you go on StubHub,
Yeah.
it shows you what team shoots each way twice.
Interesting.
So you will see
I bought
on
tickets. I never seen
Yeah.
that before.
Oh, no, it's on there.
Hmm.
So you'll see, like, if you go to the Wells Fargo Center, you go to I think it's to the right on the map. You'll see Flyers shoot 2x two
Nice.
times. If you're a Ranger fan, you go stay on the other side. And that's what my wife and I did with the kids.
Nice.
And we had, like, a fair amount of if you remember the videos,
Mhm.
there was a fair amount of Ranger fans in the section. Certainly not the majority. There
Mhm.
still were covered by Flyer fans.
Mhm.
But there was more of a higher concentration of Ranger fans on that side of the arena by far than the other side where they shoot twice.
All right. So here's my proposal.
Yes.
For all you fans out there, if you find Jeff, like, where's Waldo?
I need to make sure I'm
and you
going.
that's fine.
Okay.
That's more of the contest. If
Okay.
you don't see Jeff, you don't see. If you take a picture of Jeff or with Jeff, like if you've run into him in line for like a drink or food or whatever, you take a picture with him and tag and put down your stories and tag MYPB. You're eligible to win a Dunkin' Donut gift card. Now in the future, I'm going to see what I can do. I don't want to make promises I can't keep. But I might be able to get some TS Mod gift cards.
That would be a
There
good
you go.
gift. But I would thank the big wigs at Undefeated
wigs
Media.
Undefeated,
Undefeated Media. One of our favorite quotes.
Now we'll come up with the details later, but you could possibly be at the Devils game and you'll possibly be at the Flyers game. So
Now you're making me feel like I need to go.
No. If you're there, you're there. If you're not, you're not. But if at any time they take a picture of you, tag MYPB and share it to their stories, they're eligible to win Dunkin' Donuts gift card.
Very cool. I mean, that is a really good thing. Speaking of road hockey, we need to give a shout out. Good luck. The 2010 Westchester Express hockey team. They are heading next weekend, not this weekend, next weekend, to Buffalo for the New York State tournament. They are playing up there, and you know Buffalo well because you went to school up there. That is not an easy right, and it's probably in February, not like an exotic.
It snows every day.
It's not an exotic destination, but
underground tunnels, so you don't have to deal with the snow.
But we wish them luck. It's their second consecutive year attending the New York State tournament. They will be up in Buffalo next weekend. So that would be, I guess, the weekend of March 1st. Wow, we're in March already. The weekend of March 1st. That is the 2010 Westchester Express hockey team. We wish them the best of luck. Absolutely. And if you need luck, like, betting wise, we know hockey games move fast, but with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sport betting partner of the NHL, you can score faster than anything happening on the ice. This week, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. If you are a big believer in the Rangers' 8-game winning streak, you can find them in the futures bet and place a bet to hoist Lord Stanley's Cup in June. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app with code THPN. New customers bet just $5 on the NHL and get $200 instantly in bonus bets only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code THPN. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problems gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly.
Absolutely.
When you lose football,
Yeah.
Oh, see, there you go. You have someone who wants to pick, Mike. I'll have to let you know if I'm going to the Devils game, Mike. You can DM us tomorrow, and I will let you know if I'm going.
No cheating. You can't be giving people locations.
I won't give people locations.
Although
chances are, hold on. This is a fair hint. This is a totally fair hint for any arena. If I go and I am with my son,
yes,
okay. Chances are, and Antoinette, can you pull up Antoinette's comments? Because she's going to fit right into this. Because I met her last week at the game. Thank you for saying that. This is where Antoinette saw me. Okay. There's a high likelihood if I'm with my son, we're at some sort of food concession stand.
Okay.
Like you can find me in a seat, but I promise you we don't sit in the seat the whole game with my son because he wants to eat 700 things. That's a good hit. If I take my son, we spend more on like concession stands than we do on the tickets. True story.
Probably, yeah.
Not probably.
No, those foods are not the cheapest.
Foods are not the cheapest, nor the peanut M&Ms or the pretzels or the Cracker Jacks or the Cokes that they
$10 Sprite
that comes in the souvenir cup.
Yeah.
Right? All that good stuff. So the Rangers tomorrow night at the Devils, Saturday afternoon matinee in Philadelphia in the city of brotherly love. Mm-hmm. And then Sunday back-to-back. I would assume that you are going to play. I would go Igor tomorrow night. Okay. And then obviously they're going to split Saturday and Sunday. I don't really care. Wouldn't matter to me who plays in Philly, although Igor played in Philly in November and played really well. So they might do that. So if you do quick tomorrow night, then you know for sure they're going Igor on Saturday in Philly. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think I go Igor again. And yes, Antoinette is pulling up the best burger spot. Actually, if you go to the Garden,
too much information.
No, that's it. No, that's at the Garden. That's not it. So
okay.
We had this discussion. If you remember, people were like animated about this in September when I went to the preseason game versus the Islanders, and we were talking that morning. Well, we were talking about Zach Jones, which always brings out passion. Mm-hmm. But we were talking about what's going on with food concessions. Daily Burger is far and away the best thing in the Garden. Although people have been telling me, and I need to do it, and I didn't get a chance to do it last week when I went with my son to the Calgary game, is the prime rib. People are telling me that the prime rib is good. We will be back on Tuesday, so we have 3 games. Yep. So we will have, like I mentioned, the Devils, the Flyers, and Columbus, all 3 Metro Division matchups. And if you look at the schedule, actually, that the Rangers have, particularly in April, like the real home stretch, it's almost all Metro Division. You play Philly twice at home. You have the Devils at home in April. You have Pittsburgh twice again. Mm-hmm. You have a road game in Pittsburgh. You have the Islanders. You still have 3 more times on the schedule, twice in MSG, one of which is St. Patrick's Day. That'll be an interesting crowd at MSG on a Sunday afternoon for that one. And then you have a game in UBS. So the Rangers have a lot of Metro Division games coming up. They are done with the Caps. I believe they have 1 left down in Carolina. They have still 3 more with the Devils, including tomorrow night. There is a lot of Metro Division hockey left. 2 with Columbus.
So 1 big games.
Yeah. Metro Division games are always Chris. Yeah. And Chris is saying that Chris Galvin is saying on Instagram he probably will go tomorrow. Chris, if you see me tomorrow, hopefully you can win the DD gift card.
DD gift card.
They can win it.
Our trusty sponsor here.
I tell you, we do give them enough business here with camera time on the show. So, anything else from you, sir?
No. Great show. It was great to watch the Stadium Series. So it seems like they like you guys were talking about before. It seems like they don't do this very often, but I feel like it's been like the last 2 or 3 years. There's been Winter Classics and Stadium Series.
There always is. They're just not in the metro area. I think last year, if I'm not mistaken,
there was one last year.
Not here. Wasn't here.
Was it 2 years ago?
Mm-mm.
I felt like it was recent.
The last one here was 2014 at Yankee. Oh no, 2018 at Citi Field. The Rangers played the Sabres on New Year's Day. Okay. And then they had 2 games in 2014 at Yankee Stadium where the Yankees played the Devils on a Sunday. And they played the Islanders on a Wednesday night, and it was legitimately like negative 10 degrees, and no one was there.
Does this have to be done by the NHL, or can the Devils, the Flyers, the Rangers, and the Islanders come together and make this a once?
No, the NHL, and it's not happening. It's not happening again for a while, as Dan said, and it shouldn't because then you take the novelty. Then you take the novelty away, and if they didn't come back though in that game, you wouldn't.
True.
You wouldn't.
Yeah, you still want to go. The only qualm I have with it is the view is not ideal when you're like 10 rows, but there's nothing in front of
Yeah.
you for 100 rows from you to the ice. There's too much. They need to make a special ice.
So I'm
stadium.
going to we'll take an Instagram question, and that's any thoughts on the MLB Fanatics jersey problem and how that's most likely going to affect the NHL. I would say this, look, the NHL at the end of the day is a business. So wherever they're going to get the most money or Fanatics and whatever the deal they sign, that's where they're going to go. Right. It's always all about the money. And the Rangers, weird stat before we go. Yeah. Speaking of outdoor games, finishes, they are 5-0 in outdoor games now. They won in Philadelphia in 2012. Yeah. They beat the Devils at Yankee Stadium. They beat the Islanders at Yankee Stadium. That's 3-0. Yeah. They beat the Sabres at Citi Field. Yeah. That's 4-0. And they won this past weekend versus the Islanders at MetLife.
Let's do the playoffs outside.
Yes, we should. We should. Use the gift card to buy a Dunkin' Munchkin skewer. I did not know that was a thing. My kids might like that. Either. That's very interesting. My every day. Yes. So, all right, that is a wrap for us. We appreciate you tuning in today. Thank Dan Rosen, as always, senior reporter, NHL.com. He is the best. We'll have some more good guests coming up. The Rangers coming into the home stretch. The trade deadline is 2 weeks, so we'll be on next week. And then the following week, we are on Tuesday, and the trade deadline is that Friday. So there is a lot going on in the short term. You know that they're going to do something. The question to answer is how hard will they go and how much are they willing to give up, which is the question.
Find out more.
Find out more. Stay tuned. We thank the Bamboozle Project. Check them out, thebamboozleproject.com. Use promo code MYPB. Save yourself 20% off your total order, not just on MYPB gear, but on anything on that site. We thank DraftKings as well. Use code THPN. Get yourself started on DraftKings as well. And other than that, I should say, our executive producer, B-Rock, is not here today. We hope he feels better. He's a little under the weather. So we thank Connor for sitting in the executive producer chair.
Connor today.
Flawless over there in the corner. Like, we didn't even.
Connor, you want to take a bow?
You wouldn't
take a bow, Connor?
I think he's more of a behind the camera guy. It looks like.
Want to take a bow? Give him the opportunity.
We give the opportunity, but you wouldn't even know. Like it's just flawless
people at
transition.
Home think it's B-Rock. It's Connor today.
People think it's B-Rock. That is a wrap. Thank you guys for tuning in. We will talk to you next Tuesday.